Good afternoon, good afternoon. This is our last session, so I just wanted to thank everybody for coming to the American film market this year. It's been a big step coming to Vegas, but it's been fantastic and we love it. So I appreciate all of you, all of the stories you've posted on social media. It means a lot to us, and yeah. Anyway, before we get going, I wanted to thank somebody who's done an incredible job here for the past 5 or 6 days, and her name is Heather. She is our stage manager, and so I don't know how we would have done it without her, but she tells me what to do, so I go, fine, boss, thank you, I'll do it. But she's been incredible, so, and I appreciate the applause for her as well. It's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Chris Gore. He is the managing director, founder, and head of production for Film Threat, as well as a comedian writer, and was a regular on G4 TV's Attack of the Show. Chris has appeared as a film expert on MSNBC, CNN, Reels Channel, and also hosted shows on FX, Stars, and IFC. As an author, Chris has written The 50 Greatest Movies Never Made and the complete DVD book. His book, The Ultimate Film Festival Guide, is a must-read and is required reading at film school. His stories have appeared in magazines, online, and trades such as the New York Times, the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Video Business. Do I need to go on, Chris?
It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. But it sounds great. It sounds great. I have done those things.
And Playboy, it says here. Anyway, please give a warm welcome to Chris Gore.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be on this panel because I have made low-budget films, and I feel I still have a lot to learn. So why don't we I'm going to allow our panelists to introduce themselves and maybe come up with a less full-of-shit bio that Robin read so well. Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. Great. Let's start with Richard on the end.
I thought I was going to be on the end and go last.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm Rich Botto. Some of you know me as RB. I'm the CEO of Stage 32, which, if you're not familiar with it, is an online platform that connects and educates people in film and television worldwide. We launched in 2011. We have over 1.2 million people on the network and the world's largest library for educating writers, producers, filmmakers, financiers, on all aspects of the business. But for the purposes of this panel, I started as an actor in New York, and I moved into writing and producing. I have produced a bunch of low-budget films, and some that you might, in the $3.5 million area down to $250,000. So I've seen all ends of it, all angles, and excited to be here. This is our 10th year, of being the official education partner of the American film market. So I love everybody here, and they do a hell of a job, and it's my honor to be here again.
Awesome. Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Deverett. I'm a lawyer by trade, but I define myself as a filmmaker. I've made 9 indie feature films in the budget range of about $700,000. I'm also an educator. I'm teaching the film department at San Diego State University and at UCLA Extension, and I am a consultant. So some of you probably have been on my website and consulted with me, and I try to help coach indie filmmakers worldwide on primarily how to get their films financed and properly distributed.
Great. Max.
Hey, how's it going? I am Max Woertendyke. I'm the CEO and founder of Noble Gas Media. We're a production company dedicated to the development, very importantly, financing and production of films that we just think are utterly riveting in the thriller, drama, horror, and dark comedy space. Like Richard, I started my life as an actor, so I was a Juilliard-trained actor who at a certain point discovered that that wasn't enough and moved into producing much more seriously. Our first film, Brightwood, which was nominated for a Film Threat Award, was our first film that we made, feature film. We shot in May of 21, released in August of 22. And the process of that was a very small little film, but I got to touch every single part of the funnel on the way to the development of that film, from the ideation to the development of the script, to the casting, to the pre-production, to the scheduling, to the production, to the post-production, to the marketing, to the selling, to the whole 9 yards. And getting to touch every part of that funnel was the best education you could get. And so I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. I'm sure some of you guys have done that, and I'm sure some of you guys are trying to do that, and some of you guys would like to do that. And so hopefully I can offer some vague, something that's vaguely inspirational or informative in some way or another.
Great. Efuru.
Yes, can you hear me okay? Yes. My name is Efuru Flowers, founder and CEO of Flourishing Films. I founded it in 2016 specifically to rep, distribute, produce content from filmmakers of color worldwide. Thank you. I started my career working for John Singleton and his production company, so I come from the production end. And through my career, worked through a couple studios, one of which was really which inspired me to do what I'm doing now. I worked at Paramount Feature Acquisitions, where I learned the business piece of it and decided at one point I wanted to put the two together. And so here I am. I have produced a number of shorts. I produced my first feature this last year, and it debuted in theaters this couple months ago, and it's debuting digitally this month on the 15th. I just launched our first movie YouTube channel, so please go to Flourishing Films and check that out. So I'm really excited about that, and mostly excited about finding audiences worldwide and being able to make content to market directly to them. So yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. Paul.
I'm Paul Bales. I'm one of the partners and the chief operating officer of the Asylum, which is an independent film TV production company. We've been around since 1997. We've made and distributed over 300 movies. You've heard of none of them except maybe Sharknado, for which I'm very sorry. But happy to be here, and just to round out the resume, before I was with the Asylum, I spent almost 10 years working for Screen Actors Guild, and last thing I did there was ran their independent outreach program for independent producers called SAG Indie. So I have a little bit of knowledge about that as well, and looking forward to your questions.
Great. And thank you also, Anthony C. Ferrante, who is the director of the Sharknado series, wrote for Film Threat in the 90s. So thank you for giving him an opportunity. We are in a unique time, right? May you live in interesting times where the industry, a lot of people are saying Hollywood is dying. Seems to be a popular headline in the trades today. But also, we're in a time where a film like Terrifier 3 can come out, made for a couple $1 million, be the #1 movie at the box office, and beat out Joker 2, made by Warner Brothers for what, $200 million? Mm-hmm. We live in a time where a movie called Godzilla -1, made for under $15 million, can outgross the top Hollywood movies. Hollywood has become as efficient as the U.S. government at solving problems or making things. I'm being serious. So if I wasn't on this panel moderating, I'd be with you in the audience, because I'm very fascinated by how indies can take over, because at its heart, Hollywood was built by a lot of indie filmmakers from the 70s. Okay, the way I see things. So I want to ask all of you an open-ended question about your #1 piece of advice. If you have your closest friend who you've been friends with for years, was going to embark on making their indie movie, their first one, what would you tell your friend? And Paul, why don't we start with you and work our way down this way? We'll do that, if that's okay. But plant that seed. I want to get the #1 piece of advice and something that can help everyone here. And I'll be real quick. Film Threat is an entity I built, but I also make films myself. I made a movie called My Big Fat Independent Movie for about $500,000 years ago. It's going to be released on Blu-ray next year. I made a small documentary called Attack of the Doc, which I did a crowdfund for raised about $80,000, made it for $80,000, so everything else was gravy. Crowdfunding is a great way to get money. If you want, go to filmthreat.com/contact. Click on that. The email goes directly to me. Ask for my crowdfunding document. It is a document a friend of mine wrote. He raised $300,000 for his documentary about Ren and Stimpy. I will email you that document. It's about 14 pages about crowdfunding. So that's a lot of info. Can't go over it on the panel, but I will send it to each of you. But I'm stalling so you guys can come up with really amazing answers to this question. So I'm bullshitting here, you know.
I'm ready.
Okay, Paul, give it to me. Your best advice for a friend.
Don't do it.
Okay.
In seriousness, do it, but understand what you're doing it for. So many times I've seen people make movies with the expectation that they're going to become millionaires, make tons of money, and sometimes that happens. Never to anyone that I know, myself included. But it can happen. But that's really not why to make a movie. Make a movie because you have something to say, and hopefully it will find an audience. But have realistic expectations. If you're making a movie that is not mainstream genre, Terrifier, whatever the case may be, it may not make a lot of money. It may not make any money, but that's not the reason to do it. Make it because you've got something to say.
Nice. Yeah. I like that.
But really don't do it.
I would say something really similar, but also make sure that you do a bit of research on what's happening in the industry now. I think a lot of times filmmakers, while I think it's important, of course, to make the stories you want to make, I oftentimes meet with producers who, when I ask the question, what was it that you wanted to do with this film before you made it? Like, when you thought about this, where did you think it would go? Where did you think it would live? And oftentimes the answer is, oh, I'd never thought about that. And so I think if you have a really special story to tell, see what's kind of happening in the industry. I know we always hear it's great to, you should make a thriller or a horror or an action film. Fine, but I love the idea of multi-genre. So whatever your idea is, informing that with a genre that might be really sort of popular, I think, or commercial currently in the space. So that would be my advice, just to really do your research on what's happening in the industry at the moment, what buyers are looking at and picking up, and then, crafting your idea sort of around that, especially if you want to sell it. Some people don't really want to sell it. They just want to make it and go to festivals, etc. But festivals are also businesses, and oftentimes look at projects for their commercial and artistic value. So that's what I would say to my friends.
Nice. Yeah. Max.
There's an old theater adage that goes, good, fast, cheap, pick two. And if you're stuck with cheap and you want good, then you can't move fast. And by what I mean by moving fast, of course, if you have your low budget and your idea, it's not like you're going to spend days and days and days and days and days and weeks filming. But I think it's about being related to kind of what you guys are saying about very intentional about what you're making, about making sure that the choices you're making are specific and intentional, and getting really clear on that. Not just in the way you develop your story, but also in the way you develop your production, the way you schedule your production, the way you do your pre-production. For those of us doing small films, that is like the golden time. And I think before you get on set is the best time to prepare for what you're doing, and to be able to take your time there is important. One last thing, I had a director tell me once that, when you don't have a lot of time, you need to take it. And I think that is true. So be cheap, be good, don't rush, be intentional.
Great.
So, Chris, those of you who have spoken to me before, you know that if you ask me one question, I'm going to have 5 answers. But I'm only going to give one because you said one. So, Paul, you took my answer because normally I would say don't do it. However, I have learned over the years that people don't listen to that. They're going to do it. So, because filmmaking is a dream. And, you know, I'm privileged and blessed that I got to live that dream 9 times. It is a dream, and all of you should try to do it your best, because it's an amazing accomplishment. People say, how many films do you have? I say, I have 13. They say, but you only made 9. I say, no, but they're like my children. I have 4 sons and 9 films. That's how passionate I am about filmmaking. I literally treat my movies like children. So here's my piece of advice. The first film you make, even though you all have great stories, and a lot of indie filmmakers, generally the first film they make is usually something to do with themselves. Everybody believes they have an interesting life, an interesting story, that type of thing, which is great. Make that movie, but don't know if you should make it the first time. The first movie you should make, you should focus on who the audience is. Because you need to make money with that first movie. Because if you make money with your first movie, that will be your calling card to make many more movies after that. So if you focus on who the audience is for that movie, and you identify and know exactly who you're going to sell it to, you will make a commercially viable movie, and hopefully you'll make money with it. You do that a few times, then go and make whatever film you want. But you got to get in the game, get on the board, and that's how you do it. And a lot of filmmakers say to me, when I say that to them, they say, but I'm compromising my artistic integrity. And I say, maybe you are, but that will set your career in motion, and then you can be any artist you want to be. But you got to get in the game, and focusing on audience is the way to get in the game.
Get the fuck off Twitter. And you think I'm joking, but I'm not. Surround yourself with positive-minded people. Stop giving weight and authority to people who haven't done it just because they're Joe12345 on Twitter and are telling you that independent film is dead. Okay? This business is hard enough. You want to surround yourself with positive-minded people, like-minded people, people that understand that there is a path. How many of you woke up yesterday and put on Netflix and there was absolutely nothing to watch? There was nothing in the brand new section, or whatever they call it, what's new. It doesn't happen because there is content, and I hate using that word. There is film and TV being made everywhere all over the world. So the more informed you are, which, you know, this is where it falls into the answer. Every one of these answers I completely agree with. Every single one of them. Know why you're doing it. I hear all the time, like, you know, oh, I want to be a big star. I want to be a big... That's not a reason to do it. The reason to do it is because you love it and you want to get it done, and you understand that this is a stepping stone to the next one, and this is a step. You understand the business end of things, okay? And that, I know you asked for one, but that is my other big piece of advice. It is amazing how many people that I meet, and this week too, that want to tell me about the project, but they don't tell me the path. How are you getting it done? Where does it live? Where does it get distributed? Where are you getting the financing? Are you looking at international tax incentives, which are booming right now? Booming. Don't tell me nothing's getting done. I go to Cannes every year. This year at Cannes, it was surging. Most of it was international, but you'd be amazed at how many American producers are now doing business overseas, because that's where the action is. But it's incumbent upon you to know that, all right? And you're not going to know it if you're listening to Joe12345 on Twitter. So get the fuck off Twitter. Surround yourself, curate your community with positive-minded people, and make sure that you're putting it on yourself each and every day to educate yourself on what is happening in the industry, because there is good stuff happening in pockets, all right? That's my advice. That's it.
That's great. Yeah, I do find social media a horrible distraction, but a very low-budget way to promote films as well. Richard, let's stick with you, and I want to start with you and then make our way this way. And I want to ask you, since this is crafting powerful films with limited budgets, can you give a specific thing that you did, other than not paying people, to save money on a film? And when we talk limited budgets, I see a lot of movies. I see all your indie movies, I see Hollywood movies, and I see a movie made for $2 million that looks like it was made for tens of millions. And I see something from Hollywood made for tens of millions that looks cheap. Two people talking in a room, should not cost $100 million. But can you give me a specific trick, a tool, a thing, maybe a story from one of your films, something you did that actually was direct cost savings?
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, I produced Sam Levinson's first movie, Another Happy Day, and we made the movie for $3.5 million. We had tax incentives out of Michigan. I think it was 35% at the time. So, it was like 2.2, 2.3, whatever it was around there. And what we knew, we had an amazing cast. We had Ellen Barkin, Thomas Hayden Church, Demi Moore, Kate Bosworth, Ellen Bernstein. I can go on and on and on. It was a great cast, 3.5. But everybody on that film, because it was Ellen Barkin's comeback, did everything at a price, right? Now, the problem was, even at a price, we had a lot of locations, and Sam wrote a really rich script that just, it was a huge ensemble. So it was like, the first thing that we really did, and it was the thing we did throughout the entire filming, was how do we cut these locations down? How do we still not make it look like a few people in a room talking? So one of the things that we did was we switched out the house where this wedding was going to take place, which was a big piece of the movie, and we found a much nicer house, but we were able to get it on the cheap. Okay, like we negotiated our way, but because we had so many rooms in that house, we still were in one location, but it looked like, wow, like this thing it's big, and it felt big. And, when the movie came out, it felt big. On the other side of that, I'll just tell really quick, I did a $250,000 movie, SAG Ultra Low, in Chicago, Illinois tax credit. And what we did there was, we didn't have the star power. So to kind of bulk it up a little bit, we had Ed Asner and, give it to me, Sean Young, thank you. How could I forget? That was an interesting 2 days on set. But anyway, we had Ed Asner and Sean Young, so that gave it a little weight, a little bit of weight for a $250,000 movie, but it was the same exact thing. We had to film most of the movie in this producer's house, but the cool thing was, beneath his house, there was a restaurant, and he knew the restaurant owner. Across the street, there was a liquor store. He knew the liquor store owner. So we were able to kind of add locations on the cheap because people wanted their place in the movie or whatever. So it's a lot of beg, borrowing, and stealing when you're $250,000. So for both of those examples, the big thing for us was locations and cutting them down.
That's great. Great.
Yeah.
All right.
I totally agree with
Yeah.
You could clap.
Yeah, clap.
Richard, I so agree with you. I actually treat locations as a character in the movie. A location can make or break your movie. You get lucky with a great location, it just increases the production value so much. All right, so I'm going to give you some advice. First of all, I don't make movies in the millions. They're all in the hundreds of thousands, and I'm sure that most of your movies are going to be that. It doesn't matter how much you spend. What matters is how good your movie looks. All right? So here's the thing. Don't make a bad movie, all right? You can make a bad movie to practice, but don't make a bad movie to release because nobody wants to watch a bad movie. But don't worry about how much you spend. Just make a good movie. Like some of you are probably enormously talented and can make a great movie for $100,000. There's Hollywood filmmakers that can spend $20 million and not make a great movie. So it doesn't matter. The audience only cares about what the finished product is. They don't care about how much you spend. Now, here's my advice in production. So, first of all, if you're not going to make a great movie that you're not proud of and you're actually hoping to release it, then maybe you shouldn't make that movie. Maybe make another movie, all right? But there's so many things that go on in set that you can save or not save. But I don't look at what I save. I look at kind of what goes on screen. So, and I think that I'm always focused on selling the movie. I'm always focused on audience. That's the kind of advice I gave you before. So all of my movies, most of my movies are sports dramas. And in a sports drama, you need to have a couple of big production scenes, especially, like the stadium scene or something like that. So I spend probably half of my budget on 2 or 3 scenes in the movie that are going to be the sales point to position the movie in distribution. They're going to be in the trailer. They're what the audience is going to focus on. They're going to make the movie look big. So even though they're enormously expensive relative to the rest of the budget, but they are the most important selling features in the movie. So that's what I think you should do. You know, I mean, obviously sports drama, there's going to be a stadium scene. Now, in my movies, you can't like I can't afford at $500,000 or $600,000 to put, 5,000 people in the seats. And by the way, even when you say to people, extras come out and you'll see a movie and everything, they don't show. You got to pay them, all right? So movie magic, you put a couple of hundred people in, you tell them to bring 3 outfits, and you just keep repositioning them and shoot your camera a certain way. But if you have some big production value that can sell a low-budget film, that is what people will focus on, and that's where I think you spend the money. And then, obviously, something else has to give, because you can't go over budget. So some of the other scenes maybe are a little smaller, but I find that is a worthwhile way to deploy your funds, because it's going to get you a lot further.
Great.
I think this advice probably works best for writer, director, editors, filmmakers, people who really think of themselves as filmmakers, which is that I think a lot of times, instead of thinking, how do I make this film cheaper, you can benefit yourself by thinking about what kind of resources do I have access to, and start there. So much about this, making a good movie is about telling a great story, and that starts way before you get on set. There's nothing worse than, having $15,000 and trying to make it look like $15 million. So if all you have is this, don't write a scene where someone climbs out of a helicopter and jumps through a glass ceiling and into a room of a black tie event, in which case, a giant monster walks through the door. Like, you can't do it well. And I think that nothing kills a movie more than, trying to, in some ways, punch above its weight from a very technical level. And so I start from the very beginning. What are the resources you've got? And that leads everything from, where do I think I can actually get my money? Am I financing this myself? Am I asking my dentist uncle to do this? Am I going to production companies? And depending on your answers to those questions, I think you're going to find a better path forward, because again, it is about creating something that does justice for that, and that's something that has an audience that you can sell, and that you can say to your whether it's your uncle or your retirement fund, like, hey man, I'm paying you back 120%. Let's do it again, with a little bit more. So I just say, really start there. Start at the development of your story. Figure out what you can do, and then make something that you can get your whole fucking hands around. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to feel good. The product's going to be better. And it's going to be the beginning of an amazing body of work. Because I think one of the things that happens so often with filmmakers is they make a film, they sort of overreach financially. They don't make their money back, and they never make another film. I've heard this from our distributor. We have a film, talk to our distributor all the time. He says, takes these films and they never make another movie because they can't afford to. They took one shot, at their dream, and it didn't pay the way they needed it to. So build a body of work, and that means starting from where you are, not from where you want to be. That doesn't say not to reach or not to dream. Like, please do, of course. And of course, if you want to make art for art's sake, go for it. That's like your own prerogative, as long as you're not telling someone else that they're going to get paid on the back end of it. But that I think, is my sort of my best starting point.
I totally agree with that. Using the resources and the community of folks and friends around you to make something. As an example, I'm going into production on a project this month. And thank you. And what we're doing is we are using our resources so that this is going to be a low budget, where we're going to be able to pay our crew. We will get a number of key donations, key meaning if there's a car that is one of the stars of the film, we'll get that donated. We'll try and cut down on the number of days. And we will prep. I think someone else said this beforehand, is making sure that the shot list is together and that there are some rehearsals beforehand and that we are really prepared for for our shoot. That to me really sort of brings down a lot of costs. And then the last thing I would say is get your poster on set. Like, I really am a firm believer in all the images that you need to be delivered for distribution. Get those on set. Hire that photographer to do that, so that when you go into designing your poster, you know, it's a really nice image that helps you in the sales piece of it. But so that's what I would say.
Awesome.
I'm sorry. I thought the title of this panel was crafting shitty movies for a limited budget, so I'm totally in the wrong place. I agree with everything that was said here, but I will say that as far as the Asylum is concerned, we've broken every single one of those rules. We make our movies fast. They're not good. And they're very cheap, and we've never lost money on any of them. So you know, I'll say in the macro answer to the question is make your movie for exactly what you think you will get out of it, and don't spend $1 more than that. And that's how the Asylum has been in business for more than 25 years, because we don't overspend on what we're doing. In terms of something specific, and nobody in this room is going to like this answer, and our filmmakers certainly don't like this answer, but a big savings for us, the Asylum budget or Asylum schedule used to be 12 to 14 days. And then we had a little global pandemic, and we continued to do our production, but we realized that the powers that be were enforcing testing every 6 days. So in order to keep our costs down, we decided that we would make our movies in 6 days.
Brilliant.
And now, because the filmmakers succeeded in making feature films in 6 days, even though there's no longer testing, we continue to make feature films in 6 days. And so I encourage you to work fast, cheap, and shitty.
Yeah.
Can I say something on that? Can I just say something?
Because beauty is an eye of the beholder, you know.
It's like the 7-minute abs of filmmaking.
Well, yeah, because our film, we're going to make it in probably 6 days, but it's going to be, you know, the crafts people behind it. We're going to make it look good, and so. But I absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Great. God, I love it. I love these stories. I would add a couple things real quick. I was on the set of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four movie that never got released. They ended up doing a documentary about it. I remember that the craft services person was fired for having name brand soda on the set. It's only no brand soda, which I thought was funny. But when I did my big fat independent movie, I had met Bob Odenkirk on the film festival circuit. He had a movie called Melvin Goes to Dinner. I helped him get it in a few festivals. He agreed to be in my movie for I had 30 minutes to shoot him out. 30 minutes. So we wrote this character that was a hitman that was bleeding profusely in the trunk of the our two leads. He's in the whole movie. Because every time they open the trunk of the car, there's Bob Odenkirk bleeding to death and talking to the other hitmen. It's a comedy, folks. You can laugh, yes. And then we had wild sound of his voice. So Bob Odenkirk's character is in the entire movie, shot him in 30 minutes. So feel free to use that one if it helps. I want to remind people we are taking your questions, so go on the app and I'll look under discussion for your questions, and we'll get to those before the end of the session. Why don't we stick with you, Paul? That was a very good answer. I like that. What are your budget ranges? And when I say, don't tell me the exact, obviously, they always say, never tell your whole budget. But when we're talking about limited budget, what range are we talking about, and what are the things you do to keep those costs down? And do you scale it for, like, you know what the market is asking for that type of shitty movie? I'll say, oh wait, another tip. You ever go on Tubi and just watch crap? every movie starts with a drone shot. Am I wrong? Every Tubi movie is a drone shot with creepy music. Don't use that one. That was a bad idea. But yeah, in terms of your scaling your budgets, what other things you do simply to keep costs down? Things you want to avoid paying for? And then we'll go down this way back to Richard.
Yeah, I mean, in today's marketplace, where things are right now, and we can talk about that later on in this session, our budgets are average around $250,000, and that's pretty much where everything is. We've gone above that in different times when there was television. To give you an example, the first Sharknado was $1 million. And the second one was 80 billion. It was probably closer to 5 million. And then we did a TV series called Z Nation that was also on Sci-Fi, and that was about $1 million an episode. So that's kind of the range that we worked in. But in today's world, it's $250,000.
Wow, that's awesome. Great.
Yeah, I was going to say the lowest probably is like $25,000.
Wow.
Yeah, but there's a lot.
Could you tell us how to do that?
Again, it's using the resources, and favors, but shortening the schedule and prepping, but one location type of deal. But up to, I would say 250, using a recognizable name and face for a very short period of time to help with sales, and very few locations, very few movement, just the normal things I think that we all sort of do to keep things down.
Nice. We made Brightwood for 5 digits. Wait, is that true? Yeah, 5 digits. And we were able to do that. Planning and prep, I mean, when Dane, who's the writer-director of that film, when we were breaking that schedule, we literally scheduled in lens changes. I mean, we were like, it takes 6 minutes to go from a 70 millimeter to a 35, because we needed to control our time that tightly. That was very helpful. The other thing that was very helpful is that he's a super talented guy, and he could also be our editor, and he could hold the camera. One of the biggest challenges I hear from other people who want to make movies, they're like, I got this amazing script, but I don't know how to do anything else. And as you get older, it's harder to get people to do things for free because they got families and they have, they actually want to save their money and make money. So it gets harder to ask for those favors. So if you're young, use them now while you got them. And if you're not, I think either it's important to be able to do a bunch yourself if necessary, because no one else cares about your movie the way that you do. And so if you can't do it, if you can't carry it across the finish line, I think you're a little bit in trouble. And obviously being able to do that, when you don't have money, the only thing you have is time. And, even whether you're shooting in 6 days or not, like, the amount of time prior to those 6 days and the amount of time after those 6 days may change depending on your resources.
Great.
Okay. Before I'm going to tell you my budgets exactly, but I want to ask you a question, Paul. First of all, believe it or not, I have actually watched a lot of your movies because I am super impressed with your business model at the Asylum. I mean, you guys, and I can't believe the production value you get for $250. I mean, your movies, as much as you're calling them shit, they look a lot better than $250, I gotta say. So I'm pretty impressed with that. But in terms of your business model, I mean, what you have, which I don't think anybody probably in this room has, is you have a distribution system. You know exactly where those movies are going to go. You know exactly what you got to make them for. You know how you're going to monetize them. And the people here don't have that. So that's why you're able to keep your budgets the way you are, because you know exactly the direction they're heading. So it's tricky to navigate that when you don't have distribution. I just want to say that. Okay, so my average budget is $700,000, and I usually shoot 18 to 19 days. It's very formulaic. I don't call in any favors. Everybody gets paid a fair rate. As a filmmaker, maybe on your first film you can call in the favors. Maybe if you're lucky you get a second one. But when you start making 9, 10, 15, 20 films, you can't really call in the favors anymore. People have to make a living. They got to get paid. I pay fair rates. I believe in that. I want people who are filmmakers to be sustainable. By the way, they're not even high rates. Like, this is still low budget indie filmmaking. You know, relatively speaking, against 250, 700 sounds like a lot. It's not a lot. I mean, I wish I could pay more to everybody. I do pay SAG rates, and SAG, by the way, has done a great job at moderating, you know, different budget levels, so it's very affordable. But that's the budget level I work at.
Cool. All right.
Difficult question to answer because I have my hands in so many different things. I mean, the movies we produced have been 2.5 to 5, 6, 7. But then we have other projects. I'm going to back into this. Really, it's all about what I said earlier about the path and the honesty, right? Everybody up here, if you distill what they're saying down to one thing, it's the idea that this is a business, and you got to remember it's a business, right? So that means you have to be hyper intelligent and hyper honest with yourself about what you're willing to sacrifice, what you're willing to, to do to get the thing made. But you also have to understand what's the path to getting it made, and where does it live? Like I said, what does the distribution look like? How are you going to make your money back? All these things that we've been talking about for the last hour. For me, those conversations are always at the top. So, an example of this, and this isn't film, it's TV. I have a show that I wrote that we sold to Amblin. One of the very first conversations we had, because it's it's going to be an expensive show. It's a period show. It's based on a true story. How do we make that work in these times? Because they're not buying the really expensive shows now. Being a little bit more careful with how they, what they spend on and what the budgets are. So we immediately backed into what range do we think we could be in to be able to sell this show, okay? And everybody was like, well, at the high end, it could be $10 million an episode. And we're all like, of course it could, because, we'll freaking build every set live and bring in every star imaginable. But ultimately, when we got done, we said this thing probably needs to live between $2 and $3 million an episode to really make it still as what we want it to be. So then the next question became, let's look at the pilot script. Let's look at this world, and let's look at what you built, because how many sets are we going to have to build, and how, where are these people going to be every week, and that became a conversation. And that was fair to me. And there was certain things where they were like, you're either going to have to combine that location, or we're going to have to expand that. Like, this location is going to be our hub for the entire show. And me as a writer, I mean, it helps because I'm a producer too, so it's like I'm not precious about it. But me as a writer, I had to sit there and go, okay, I hate the fact that I have to give up that location, and I think that would be amazing. But who knows? Maybe in season 2, if the thing's a hit and they're giving us $4 million an episode or whatever, we can go build the damn thing, right? But the thing is to get it made, right? So, honesty, self-education, continue to educate yourself, and surrounding yourself with people who understand what the hell they're doing and want to pull with you and not push against you.
Chris, could I just add something about that? But so people always say, like I say, what's your budget? People say, when they're being honest, because nobody's honest, by the way. Yeah. But if you can have an honest conversation, people say, well, the truth is, I'm spending $250,000 in cash, and I say, okay, that's what you're spending in cash. That is not your budget, because you're probably writer, producer, director, and you're going to put 2,500 hours of your time into this movie. And if you value, just for easy math, you value your time at, say, $100 an hour, you've put $250,000 worth of labor into your movie. You didn't pay it in cash, but the value of your movie is $500,000, the true value. The honest value. So you've actually devalued your movie by saying the cash value because you didn't put the value of your time in. And everybody does that. You shouldn't do that.
Again, we're running short on time here, so any questions, please submit those through the app. But I want to ask, this is like a Justice League Avengers of panelists here. Seriously, do you guys have questions for each other? Because I see such a diversity of types of films and budget levels. Do any of you? I know, Richard, we were talking. You were saying, you know, sometimes the panelists like to talk to each other. Do you have questions for each other? I'd love to hear them.
Where'd you get that jacket?
Burlington Coat Factory, $30. I'm not joking. See, it looks high budget, cheap.
Yeah, I've got a question, which is the same question that everyone in the audience wants to know, which is like, right, you know, every panel is like this. The one thing everyone wants to know is, like, you know, how do you get your money? Like, where do you get your $700,000? Where do you get your $2 million? Where do you get your $25,000? And the answers are different, and I don't think we're talking about specifically anything here, but I think it would be valuable to say, like, you know, where do we find that? Where do we find that? Because where we find it determines what we have to give back. And, you know, you're talking about audience, and, like, that's really important if you have investors. You know, and using the word investors is very different than someone who's like, I found some people who are going to donate to my movie. And they're completely different models. They require completely different things. So I would like to, you know, instead of you guys having to ask the question, I'll ask it for you.
That is the question. That is, I used to ask that when I went to Sundance. I had this sort of, you know, fairy tale idea that everyone was Kevin Smith. I put it on credit cards. I raised it. What you kind of find out is really a lot of filmmakers there, for being honest, are the sons and daughters of the rich. Let's be fair. It's true. It's true. So when I would ask that question, how'd you raise the money? How'd you get the money? They never really were honest about that, because they would just say, well, I got it from my rich family. So that's
Can I be honest,
experience
Chris?
of Sundance. I'm being completely honest. But then there are people who find unique ways of getting something. So, Max, you asked Max, your question is a panel. So, but I'd love to hear from each of you on that.
I want to take that first, okay?
Please.
Money for independent, low-budget films comes from private investors, aka high net worth individuals, otherwise known as rich people. That's where the money comes from, okay? Not 90% of it, all right? So people say crowdfunding. You can't, if you're lucky, if you have an unbelievably good crowdfunding campaign, you're gonna get 50,000. That would be the top end. Once in a while, somebody exceeds it, okay? But crowdfunding, it's great, but it's so difficult. If you need to get, like my budget, 700,000, they come from rich people. They come from high net worth individuals, okay? Mostly real estate, investment banker types. So the next question that people say is, where do you find these people? So networking is super important. Like, if you're lucky enough to be in a network of high net worth individuals, when you pitch them, you need to talk business. Rich people don't like to part with their money. That's why they're rich. So what you pitch them on is their return on investment. You don't pitch them on your movie idea. 1 second. You have a log line. My movie's about somebody who's going to go in the woods and get killed and eaten by a monster. But here's the distribution plan. This is why the Asylum is so successful. Here's how we're going to distribute it. Here's our audience. Here's what the return on investment is going to look like. Here's how you're going to make your money back over what period of time. Here's the cash flow. Filmmakers don't like to do that. Why? Because you're artists. You don't like to talk business. That's all boring business stuff. It's all accounting, cash flow, legal, financial. You know, it's funny. Even my students, my friends, my own wife, they don't call me a filmmaker. Why? Because I'm so focused on the financial side of the business. And I'm not, you're not an artist. What do you mean I'm not an artist? I've written like 6 scripts. I've directed 5 movies. 3 of them are on Netflix. Why am I not an artist? Because you're too focused on return on investment. The reason I get my money financed is because when I sit in front of investors, I talk about return on investment, and they trust that I know what I'm talking about. That's where the money comes from.
Yeah. Nice.
I mean, Not much to add there. I mean, that was awesome. I would say the only thing I would add is you do have vanity investors as well. But I agree. It's if you go in talking about the business, but you said the golden word to me, the magic word, which is networking. And, you know, people ask me why I started Stage 32 or why I built it. I tell them all the time, I built it for me. And what I mean by that is I understand the importance of having a network, and I understand the importance of having a community, and I understand the strategy of the long game. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and everybody wants to run before they can walk, right? So I can tell you I've gotten a ton of my investors just through Stage 32. That did not happen overnight. That happened with me building relationships with people to the point where they come to me sometimes and say, what are you working on? What are you producing next? How do I get involved? Because you've proven that you've done it before, right? There's a trust factor with all of this. You're asking people to separate with their money, and they want a return, right? They want to know there's a path to a return. So that also means that you got to educate yourself, and I'm sure everybody on this panel can agree with this. You don't want to be putting out business plans where your comps are the Blair Witch Project and My Big Fat Greek Wedding and Little Miss Sunshine. If I see one more of these freaking business plans, I want to scream. Because first of all, not only these 20-year-old movies and they were unicorns, but that the avenue of distribution doesn't exist anymore. So you have to know what the hell you're talking about. But you also have to understand that raising financing and raising money, people have a lot of places they could put their money. And if you're an unknown entity, you got to ask yourself, why would they put it with you? So the best thing you could do is become a known entity. And the way you do that is you dedicate time to networking. I still spend, and this is no lie, haven't been able to do it the last few days, but I will make up for it when I get back, an hour a day on Stage 32 every single day, sending network requests, connecting with people, meeting people, going into the Introduce Yourself Lounge that we were talking about to see all the new people that join, because you never know who's coming in. And that has paid off in spades, because now I have this rich community of people that I get to see here, that I get to see at Cannes, and we're talking about what's the next thing we want to do. What are you working on? How can I help you with that? Let's see if we can get the money over there. What's your path? And the conversations become much greater and much richer and much more fun.
Just one last thing. I think if you have made something, and even if it's for $25K or whatever it is, and and hopefully it looks good, and continue to sort of just make things with your community, small things, and then you network. People can come to you. That's happened to me before a number of times, where people will say, "Oh, we like this. I want to recommend you to this person who's an investor looking for projects to finance." So I think it's important to have something to be able to show, and use that as a way to also attract money.
I don't see any questions from the audience, and we're running out of time. We have questions from the. Okay, I thought you were supposed to do them in the app, but can we yell them out? Okay, what's that?
30 questions.
I don't know how to work this. Let's just go to let's go IRL in real life right there. Stand up and loudly. Go for it.
Hi, my name is.
I'm going to give him my microphone.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. What's that?
Thank you.
Shit.
Hi, my name is Daniel. I am in the process of producing my first feature film as a director, although I've worked on a number of feature films in other capacities. As a follow-up to the question, is I've found a roadblock in my process of getting the film done, right? Is that there's three different sections, and everybody wants something from the other. For example, the film investor wants you to have the name actor already attached with an LOI, right? The distribution company / sales agent also wants for you to already have the money for the film. And then the name actor wants for you to already have the funding and pay them something in advance in order for them to give you the LOI. So from your experience, what is the best route to go about the process?
There's a reason people describe making a film like trying to build a fleet of planes in the air while you're flying them, and then discovering that you have to land by May, so you better get some fucking wheels on now. I think other people can probably speak more specifically, but I think it's a matter of inching. You have to do a lot of things at the same time. Essentially, you need to be able to move, I think, at the same time in little incremental sections to sort of tighten your circle, or tighten the noose, as you might say, around, whatever the thing it is that you're trying to hang on to, the trap, to trap it.
We've got some really good questions here in it. Let's go rapid fire. No, it's good. The iPad's not working. From Danny Tesla, do you think it's right or wrong to use the name actor on your poster to sell the film if they are only in your movie for a few minutes?
I mean, we did that with the film in Chicago, the 250. We had Ed Asner and Sean Young, and we used that. I mean, we knew but again, we knew the path. It was a $250,000 movie. We weren't expecting to get $4 million overseas for Ed Asner and for Sean Young, but we were able to get some money back into it. It gave us a little bit of clout, and when we were running around trying to sell it, there was, at that level, it brought interest. So for us, it worked.
Can I answer this man's question? I call it burning the candle at both ends. And you have to be honest. I'm a super honest guy. That's why I get funding, because people trust me. You tell your distributors that the money's coming. You tell the money people that the distribution is coming. And literally, you're burning the candle at both ends, and they ultimately meet. And it's called doing the dance. You just got to do the dance. That's how it works.
Great. A question from Eddie Santiago. Who do you approach first?
That's me.
Oh, you already got that one. All right. Danae Norell, are any of you willing to mentor indie filmmakers with micro-budget projects and beyond? Any willing to mentor up here?
I'd
say
mentor.
Stage 32 is a great
mentor, but I charge. It's you go on my website. I'm a consultant, and that's what I do all day long. I mentor, but I do it for a fee because my time's worth money too.
Yeah. And I would just say there's 3,000 hours of education on Stage 32 on this information. So, it's, again, the world's largest library. There's nothing you can't learn there.
Great.
Look at Dear Producer and Ted Hope. And, there's lots of free resources, I think, that get you started.
Ted Hope has a great Substack.
It is great.
Excellent.
For film, it's awesome.
Excellent. From Frenny Mole, how important is sound in movies? What part of the budget is fair to be allotted for sound design, soundtrack? I think sound is critical for me personally, but
you know what they say, shitty visuals can be an aesthetic choice. Shitty sound just makes it sound like shitty sound.
Yeah, I think it's important. Okay, from Zach Burlew, what is needed for more indie films to end up in theaters? Technology, new next-gen indie theater chains, more screens. Theatrical is on hard times. It has not returned to 2019 levels yet after 5 years. What any response to that?
Yeah, the holy grail of the film industry is releasing your film theatrically. But when you focus on audience like I do, how many of you want to go and spend $15 in 2 hours of your life watching a low-budget indie film? You probably don't. And that's the reason that a lot of indie films don't get theatrical releases. That's the truth, including my own, because you got to look at what the audience wants. I mean, you could try, but you start four-walling, you're going to blow your brains out. It's very expensive.
Yeah, well, it's tough, I think, for any movie, really, to go theatrical. Well, not to go theatrical, but to do well. I mean, everybody, whether you're studio or you're indie, you're always taking a risk. Right, but indie theaters are also could be really good. Our project Summer of Violence just was released in theaters as an indie movie, and it's tough though. It's a tough road, but it does need to feel expansive. It needs to feel like it's theatrical. It'd be great if it had a recognizable name and face, at least one, one of those. But I am a big believer that audiences do still love indie movies, and whether or not you're going to see them in a theater or you're going to see them, on streaming. I think it's all great.
I would say really quickly, if I could, what's going to change it? Execs not living in fear and companies not being beholden to Wall Street. Those are two things that will make it change. And one other thing I'll say is that the specialty box office this year is actually having a quietly very good year. And the more you go, the more people are going to want to put their films back in theaters again, because if there's one thing they want, it's money. And they're beholden to Wall Street, they want money. So go support independent film in theaters.
Yeah. And I'll end with one thing here. Catherine Hardwicke, the director, she did the one watchable Twilight movie. It was the first one. She did an amazing presentation called Fix It in Prep. Look it up online. It is a great presentation for making indie movies. Unfortunately, I'm getting the wrap signal here. We got through more than half the questions. We're gonna hang out for about. Am I making you do that, or are you gonna do it? You gonna really do it? Okay. We'll hang out for a little bit. Answer some of your questions. Give them a big round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you for the phone. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you. Thank you, AFM 2024.